Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kiran Bendigeri from Grafosyss IAS. In this video, let's have a look at 6th Standard History, 3rd chapter. From gathering to growing food. Varieties of foods. Today, most of our food, such as fruit, vegetables, grain, milk, and meat, comes from plants that are grown and animals that are reared. So in the previous chapter we have seen that people used to gather plants or hunt animals, but nowadays what we consume, the different kinds of fruits or vegetables which are grown or reared, right? Different plants grow in different conditions. Rice, for example, requires more water than wheat and barley. So we might have seen rice fields where the plenty of stagnant water is there. In some parts of the world, people also do mixed farming. Mixed farming in the sense fishing and also growing of rice is done in the same field. This explains why farmers grow some crops in some areas and not in other areas. Different animals too prefer different environments. For instance, sheep and goat can survive more easily than cattle in dry, hilly environments. So we have seen different kinds of animals at different locations. So we have found yak in Himalayan region, which has got lot of furs to survive at that kind of location. But if you come to southern part of India, we find cattle which have very less fur. So different kind of animals survive at different environments. Environments. The beginnings of farming and herding. The climate of the world was changing, and so were plants and animals that people used as food. We have seen in Mesolithic era, the environment started to warm. So grassland started. After grassland started, the animals which used to consume grass began to increase. So these were the changes happened. Men, women and children probably observed several things. The places where edible plants were found, how seeds broke off stalks, fell on the ground, and new plants sprouted from them. So this is the process of how the new plant is grown, how seeds broke off stalks, and how it fell on ground, and how it sprouted. Perhaps they began looking after plants, protecting them from birds and animals so that they could grow and the seeds could ripen. In this way, people became farmers. So they studied about plants and later they started protecting it from birds and animals so that they can consume it later. Women, men and children could also attract and then tame animals by leaving food for them near their shelters. So they started taming animals also. The first animal to be tamed was the wild ancestor of the dog. So dog was the first animal to be tamed. Later people encouraged animals that were relatively gentle to come near the camps where they lived. These animals such as sheep, goat, cattle and also the pig lived in herds, and most of them ate grass. So the animals which were very gentle and which are consumed by people, those were tamed and kept. Often people protected these animals from attacks by other wild animals. This is how they became herders. So sheep, goat, cattle and also pigs were consumed by people. So these animals had to be protected from different kind of carnivorous animals like lion, tigers, cheetahs, sort of that. They like this they become herders. Domestication is the name given to the process in which people grow plants and look after animals. Very often plants and animals that are tended by people become different from wild plants and animals. This is because people select plants and animals for domestication. For example, they select those plants and animals that are not prone to disease. They also select plants that yield large size grain and have strong stalks, capable of bearing the weight of the ripe grain. Seeds from selected plants are preserved and sown to ensure that new plants will have the same qualities. So what is domestication? Domestication is growing plants and also looking after animals. They used to select those plants and animals which are not prone to disease. They used to collect the seeds from the plants which are later used to grow and preserve them so that they can sown. Amongst animals, those that are relatively gentle are selected for breeding. As a result, gradually domesticated animals and plants become different from wild animals and plants. For example, the teeth and horns of wild animals are usually much longer than those of domesticated animals. So they used gentle animals like cattle, sheep, goat and pigs for breeding. Later these animals further changed, their behavior changed, teeth and horns changed. Even now we can compare these animals with wild animals, their counterpart animals. There are many changes we can observe. The behavior changes and their physical appearances. Domestication was a gradual process that took place in many parts of the world. It began about 12,000 years ago. Virtually all the plant and animal produce that we use as food today is a result of domestication. The food today which we are consuming, it is due to the result of domestication. What they had started, we are doing the same thing now also. We are continuing the process. So it all began 12,000 years ago, which means Mesolithic time period. Some of the earliest plants to be domesticated were wheat and barley. So wheat and barley was domesticated, and domesticated animals were sheep and goat. A new way of life. If you plant a seed, you will notice that it takes some time to grow. This may be for several days, weeks, months, and in some cases years. We know that not all the plant grow at the same rate. Some plants like bamboo, it is actually called as grass. It grows very fast, and there are some trees which takes lot of years For example, sandalwood tree, it would take like 20 years or 30 years to grow it fully. So some plants take several days, some weeks, some months, or some in case years. When people began growing plants, it meant that they had to stay in the same place for a long time, looking after the plants, watering, weeding, driving away animals and birds, till the grain ripened. So this is the process. We can see in field that when the seed is sown, they had to the farmers have to take care of those things. They have to water it, they have to remove weeds and all, so that it won't consume all the nutrients, and also they have to drive away animals and birds, etc. And then the grain had to be used carefully, as grain had to be stored for both food and seed. So the grain which is grown, some part they used to use it as food, and some they used it as seed to grow it at later period. People had to think of ways of storing it. In many areas they began making large clay pots, or wove baskets, or dug pits into the ground. These are the three ways which we have to remember how they used to store the seeds. In one way, they used to make pots and they used to store the seeds in it. Second way, they used to weave baskets from some sticks or some plant product or sort of that, or they used to dug pits into the ground. Storing animals. Animals multiply naturally. Besides, if they are looked after carefully, they provide milk, which is an important source of food, and meat whenever required. In other words, animals that are reared can be used as a store of food. Animals multiply naturally, so we don't need to do anything regarding that, but we have to take care of it. We have to provide water and food to eat. Later it provide us milk, meat, skin, etc., leather. Animals were reared and it was stored as food. So look at the table below to see where evidence of grain and bones of domesticated animals have been found. So in which site what have been found? So first look at sites. Mehergarh. Mehergarh, it's in present day Pakistan, so western part of India. So what we have found: wheat, barley, sheep, goat, cattle. So sheep, goat, these were gentle animals. These are gentle animals. These were first reared. So as we just saw, wheat and barley, it was first grown. Koldiva, it's in UP. Rice, fragmentary animal bones are found. Mahagara, it's in UP. Rice and cattle are found. Gufkral, it's in Kashmir. Wheat and lentil are found. Bursao, it's in Kashmir. Wheat and lentil, dog, cattle, sheep, goat, buffalo remains are found. In Chirand, it is in Bihar. Wheat, green gram, barley, buffalo, ox are found. remains are found. Hallur in present day Andhra Pradesh. Millet, cattle, sheep, goat, pig. Payampalli in present day Andhra Pradesh. Black gram, millet, cattle, sheep, pig. So we have to remember all these things. Towards a settled life, archaeologists have found traces of huts or houses at some sites. For example, in Burzao, in present-day Kashmir, people built pit houses which were dug into the ground, with steps leading into them. So underground buildings. So these are kind of bunkers at that time, we can say, like that. These may have provided shelter in cold weather. So it is found in Kashmir, so we can say they have digged bunkers during that time, and these were dug to provide shelter in cold weather. Archaeologists have also found cooking hearths both inside and outside the huts, which suggests that depending on the weather, people could cook food either indoors or outdoors. So they have found cooking hearths, due to which we can able to know that they used to cook indoor and also outdoor. Stone tools have been found from many sites as well. Many of these are different from the earlier Paleolithic tools, and that is why they are called Neolithic. So we have seen in Paleolithic time period the stones which were used were not so sharp, they were round stones like that, and in later time period we have seen that stones are sharp, which were used to gather plants and also hunt animals. So the tools which are found are sharp and all, so from which we can conclude that these sites were present during Neolithic time period. These include tools that were polished to give a fine cutting edge, and mortars and pestles used for grinding grain and other plant produce. So these tools were also polished to give fine cutting edge. Mortars and pestles are used for grinding grain even today. So we know that mortars and pestles, those are tools which are used in nowadays houses to grind spices and all, and also the bigger version used to grinding grain in villages even today. So let's look at mortars and pestles. So this is the kind of thing which we use to grind salts and spices, right? So this is mortar and pestles, and this is the thing which we use to grind grains, right? So they were used thousands of years ago also. At the same time, tools of the Paleolithic types continued to be made and used. And remember, some tools were also made of bone. So not every tool is made of stone, it is also made of bones also. In Paleolithic, mostly it was the stones were used. In later time period, bones were also used, right? New stone tools. So we can see it has sharpened edge, right? Many kinds of earthen pots have also been found. These were sometimes decorated and were used for storing things. So pots were used to store seeds and all. People began using pots for cooking food, especially grains like rice, wheat, and lentils that now became an important part of the diet. Besides, they began weaving cloth using different kinds of materials. For example, cotton that could now be grown. So we are studying about later time period in which they used pots to cook food using rice, wheat, and lentils, which we use now also. And they began to weave cloth using cotton. Many of the farmers and herders live in groups called tribes. Scholars find that they follow certain customs and practices that may have existed earlier as well. So they used to live in jungle. They had some. They used to live in community, and their group were very small, and they were called as tribes. Tribes, usually 2 to 3 generations, live together in small settlements or villages. Most families are related to one another, and groups of such families form a tribe. So even now we can see tribal people, they live in very small settlements, in villages, maybe mostly they live in jungles, sort of that, and also in desert. They have their own culture, own lifestyle, etc. Members of a tribe follow occupations such as hunting, gathering, farming, herding, and fishing. Even now there are many tribes. They follow their own customs, own culture, and have their own lifestyle. They hunt, they gather, they farm, uh, and they do fishing also. Usually women do most of the agriculture work, including preparing the ground, sowing seeds, looking after the growing plants, and harvesting grain. So here we have to observe what women did and what children did and what men did. What women did, they used to work in agriculture land. So they used to sow seeds, and they used to look after growing plants, etc. And children often look after plants, driving away animals and birds that might eat them. So this is the easiest task. So children used to do these kind of things, driving away animals and birds, like that. They used to look after it. Women also thresh, husk, and grind grain. So we can easily say that, in short, women used to do the food preparation part, like growing plant, and the process. Men usually led large herds of animals in search of pasture. Children often look after small flocks. The cleaning of animals and milking is done by both men and women. So this is some sort of difficult part. Uh, uh, Men used to do outdoor work, and also difficult part, which is leading a large herd of animals, right? And children also looked after small flocks. The cleaning of animals and milking is done by both men and women. Both women and men make pots, baskets, tools, and huts. Even now, if we watch some Discovery channel or some Discovery episodes, we can see the tribal people working, what they are doing and all. From that we can relate to this passage what they did and all. They also take part in singing, dancing and decorating their huts. So for entertainment purpose they used to do this. They now, even now they do this, singing, dancing and decorating their huts, right? Mehergarh. This site is located in a fertile plain near the Bolan Pass, which is one of the most important routes into Iran. Mehergarh was probably one of the places where women and men learned to grow barley and wheat and rear sheep and goats for the first time in this area. It is one of the earliest villages that we know about. So Mehergarh, it's also one important site which we have to remember, because it is one of the earliest villages that we know. It is near the Bolan Pass. So where is Mehergarh? Mehergarh is here. It is in Pakistan, right? Right, this is the Pakistan map, and here the this is Iran, here Afghanistan, and this is India, right? So women and men learned how to grow barley and wheat. These are the two things which were first domesticated, and sheep and goats which were first domesticated, right? Archaeologists have found many kinds of animal bones from these sites. They have found deer and pigs bones also. So here it is given levels. You must have observed it. So there are different levels while excavating the site, which we are going to study it later. So at different levels they have found different bones of animals. So let's see what this is. Earlier and later levels. When archaeologists are digging at an excavation site, how do they know which level is earlier and which is later? Suppose people first start living on flat land. So let's see which level is earlier, which is later, right? Suppose people first start living on the flat land. Over the years, the surface will gradually rise, because people discard waste material and generally stay and rebuild houses in the same place. After hundreds of years, this leads to the formation of a mound. So when this mound is dug up, what is found from the upper layers of the mound is generally from a later time than what is found from the lower layers of the mound, which are older. These upper and lower layers are often referred to as levels. Here this is the mound, right? This is the mound, and the 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the layers, and fourth, what here it is present, the people start to live on this flat bed, let's assume. So after that people discard some materials or sort maybe sort of that, due to which third layer is formed after some years. Later second layer is formed after some years. After some years first layer is formed. So From this we can know that what they did during that time period. These upper and lower layers are often referred to as levels. Mehergarh include remains of square or rectangular houses. Each house had 4 or more compartments, some of which may have been used for storage. When people die, their relatives and friends generally pay respect to them. People look after them, perhaps in the belief that there is some form of life after death. Burial is one such arrangement. Several burial sites have been found at Mehergarh. In one instance, the dead person was buried with goats which were probably meant to serve as food in the next world. So we have found several remains of houses in Mehergarh. This is the things. Some rooms may be used for saving or storing the food, and we have also found burial sites. In one instance, a dead person with buried goats also found. So they might have believed that there is some sort of life after death. Dodjali heading. This is a site on the hills near the Brahmaputra valley, close to the routes leading to China and Myanmar. So we have seen this on map, which is located at northeastern part of India, and it is near Brahmaputra valley, which is very near to China and Myanmar. Here stone tools including mortars and pestles have been found. These indicate that people were probably growing grain and preparing food from it. They have found mortars and pestles, what we just saw, to grind spices or to grind grains, right? Often finds include jaded, a stone that may have been brought from China. Also common are finds of tools made of fossil wood, ancient wood that has hardened into stone, and pottery. So the fossil wood which is available during excavation, we can see that it is it will become hardened like stone. So these are the things they have found in Dodjali heading. And what is jadeite? Jadeite is this is a jade which is used in jewelries and all. Elsewhere, find Turkey in your atlas. One of the most famous Neolithic sites, Catalhuyuk, was found in Turkey. Several things were brought from great distances: flint from Syria, cowries from the Red Sea, shells from the Mediterranean Sea, and used in the settlement. Remember, there were no carts. Most things would have been carried on the backs of pack animals such as cattle or by people. So what is Catalhuyuk? This is a very large Neolithic and Chalcolithic photo city settlement in southern Anatolia. So this is the one, Catalhuyuk, right? This has been excavated in Turkey, and they have found many things also. Flint, which is bought from Syria, cowries from Red Sea, uh, and there were no carts during that time, so they used to bring it with the help of animals. So let's look at what is shell. This is the things, this is the thing which is available near the sea coast, right? Cowries, which we used to play, and flint. These are the flints. This is one kind of mineral, right? And the important dates which we have to remember. So domestication started at 12,000 years ago during the Mesolithic time period. Beginning of settlement at Mehergad about 8,000 years ago. 8,000 years ago. So Mehergad is located at, I hope you remember. So this is all for now. Thank you.